Hello! Jake Utterton, who was orphaned as a child, serves in Afghanistan and survives a horrific massacre in which his combat comrades are killed. After his retirement, he manages to return to a peaceful life and start a family. But in the midst of his day-to-day problems, he overlooks the fact that his military past has not been forgotten by certain people in power. They try to leave him no choice but to take up arms for the benefit of others. But the man goes against the circumstances and refuses to sacrifice his principles. Under the scorching sun of Mosul, Afghanistan, the Taliban ambush a U.S. Army unit. They wait patiently for the soldiers to go far enough to take them by surprise.
Obama called it. Should have detoured this place.
At the center of the ambush is a man who hides a gun and a bomb under his clothes. He refuses to surrender and gets shot, and arrogant Jake tries to disarm the improvised explosive device, despite Colonel Mason's orders to retreat. An explosion occurs, and the survivors are caught in the crossfire. The shell-shocked Jake manages to recover and survive, while the colonel gets shot in the leg. An allied helicopter shows up to save the day, but most of the squad is killed by the Taliban in the fight. 5 years later, Jake is still haunted by the memories of that fateful day. He works as a mechanic in an auto shop owned by his uncle Earl, who had raised him since he was a child after the death of the boy's parents. After a hard day, the veteran returns home to his wife Ashton and his son Weston. They have a great relationship, but the evening is soured by financial problems. The bank is threatening to seize their house for missing mortgage payments. Jake, however, remains optimistic.
We'll push through this. Okay? Like we always do.
Before going to bed, he tells his son about his fallen comrades in arms and Colonel Mason, who came to the hospital when Weston was born. The next day, Jake encounters a group of thugs in the repair shop who are demanding money from his uncle. The veteran confronts them. For this, the thugs attack him, but immediately get hit in the face and knees with a wrench. Their leader, Fresh, threatens the man with a gun and promises not to let his insolence go unanswered. Humiliated, he scurries off with his gang. Jake waits for an explanation from Earl, who hints that he used to work with other people's money when he was young and earned the money for the auto shop illegally. But he doesn't owe those thugs anything, and he's not going to cave in. Jake replies that this way, the stubborn uncle will be at war with them forever, and Earl needs to figure out what to do about the problem. He calls his wife to tell her about the incident. In the evening, Fresh greets Jake next to his house and immediately kicks the gas. Inside, the man finds the breathless bodies of Ashton and Weston in a pool of blood. He can't look at the terrible scene and is devastated with grief. The veteran refuses to talk to the arriving police officers and gets into his van. Jake finds the killer's car parked outside a nightclub. Inside, he immediately opens fire to kill, taking the lives of all visitors. Before dying, Fresh tries to say that he didn't mean to kill the man's family, but Jake carries out his plan anyway. The man doesn't hide from justice, and after 5 months is already in a prison cell, where he is tormented by thoughts of the last moments of his beloved wife and son's lives. He is visited by Colonel Mason, who suggests that he seek legal counsel, but the man believes that he belongs in prison for the deeds he had committed, and that there is no one left for him on the outside. Despite his good relations with the colonel, Jake declines his help and asks Mason not to return. That same night, Jake is visited by a man who calls himself Ramsey and offers to join his task force.
I don't give two shits what you want. I had my dose of kids for the day.
Mr. Atherton.
Guard.
Jake doesn't let the man finish his speech and returns to his cell, from which he gets kidnapped in the middle of the night by masked men and injected with a sedative. The man wakes up outdoors, where Ramsey and his team of thugs report that their organization, Section 8, is working on top-secret missions and is not subject to the law. The commander has thoroughly researched the biography of the former Special Forces fighter who avenged his family. But freedom and even his own life is still worth nothing to Jake, so the boss skillfully manipulates the man's feelings. He asks what his son Weston would say.
What would he want you to do? Live your life like a convict?
This works, and they fly off to Washington, D.C., where Ramsey shows the department's headquarters, which he calls the Batman's lair. They only have 16 agents in their staff, each of whom has a complicated relationship with the law. Section 8 receives orders directly from the State Department and eliminates threats to U.S. security around the world. Before Jake receives papers for his new name, a car, and temporary housing, he is given a fist-fighting initiation procedure with the powerful Ajax. Jake pins the man down and threatens to rip his eye out, but quiets his rage, remembering his family. The agents, including Bruner and Elias, welcome the new team member with caution, while the girl, Mueller, immediately sides with the newcomer. Jake embarks with her on his first mission to Mexico. They must recover the secret weapon blueprint stolen by the mafioso Castillo, and then eliminate the target. What makes Jake uneasy is that he'll have to play the role of a hired assassin. Castillo plans to sell an arms-making scheme to the Russian mafia, and Mueller sends Jake to the site of the deal alone. The Russians are unhappy to be met at a dump and want to finish the deal and get out as soon as possible, but Castillo delays them with empty talk. This gives Jake time to prepare. He opens fire from behind a cover, confusing the bandits. Both factions blame each other for the setup and start a massacre. Once most of the participants eliminate each other, Jake finishes off the survivors, followed by Castillo, who refuses to give up his papers. Jake finds them in his car with the 2 girls the mobster was having fun with and decides to spare them. Upon returning to base, Ramsey reprimands the agent for leaving witnesses alive.
So you want someone to basically just disregard all human life for you and this little f***ing club of yours, huh?
Jake clearly differs in his ethical principles from his boss, but Ramsey respects this, and Mueller once again takes her partner's side. The jealous Ajax, on the other hand, adds fuel to the fire. Ramsey assigns his best hitman, named Locke, to kill a corrupt official, whom he also finds in the company of 2 ladies. Locke commands them to leave and eliminates the target, and then starts a gunfight with the guards in the casino. Meanwhile, Jake walks into the luxurious house allocated to him for the first time. He's surprised to find photographs on the wall that he's been keeping since his time in Afghanistan. He recalls Mason, who had saved his life on that fateful mission. Back then, the colonel himself almost lost a leg and will have to limp for the rest of his life. But it's a small price to pay compared to what his fallen comrades have paid. In the evening, Jake meets Mueller at the bar, where he asks her how she ended up in the division. The girl was serving in the army until she was unjustly fired by her commanding officer, and she didn't hold back in response.
Knocked his teeth out?
Remind me never to f with you, Miss Mullen, please.
She flirts with the man, but Jake is not yet ready to forget his deceased wife. Soon Ramsey is given a new task, to kill Senator Jim Graham. The boss calls him a traitor, despite his official position, which should be proven by the files on his computer that they are going to steal. This time, they will take Ajax with them for cover. Mueller infiltrates the senator's headquarters and downloads the information, but security signals a threat, so the guards take the senator away in an armored jeep. This takes the team by surprise. Jake rushes after him on his own and manages to stop the target by jumping off a high ravine.
I have a family. I have a wife. I have a son.
The veteran remembers his family and hesitates, and the senator is finished off by Ajax, who has just arrived. In the evening, Jake thinks again about his past life and happy moments with his loved ones, but his thoughts are interrupted by armed men who sneak up to his house. Ramsey does not forgive mistakes. The man hides from them, and the next day visits Colonel Mason. The commander knows about Section 8, but says that it was officially disbanded back in the 90s. Apparently, the organization is now being used by high-ranking people, but all ready for their own private illegal needs. Mason promises to help his comrade with arms and money. Ramsey is frustrated that Jake has escaped his clutches and turns to Locke to hunt him down. While the fugitive is hiding in his hometown, he accidentally bumps into a boy who recognizes him. It is his son's best friend, Landon, who says he misses Weston. Jake learns from the boy that before his death, Fresh had several conversations with men in black suits who looked like secret agents from the comic books. This is when Locke catches up with him, starting a shootout on a busy street and killing the cops who arrive at the scene. Jake manages to get away, and Ramsey is extremely dissatisfied with this fact. Jake comes to Earl and thanks his uncle for taking him under his wing and raising him after his parents' death. Together, they arm themselves and prepare to repel the pursuer's attack.
No goddamn retreat. And no prisoners.
The workshop is surrounded by all the agents of Section 8, and after his uncle helps the guy to send Bruner and Elias to the other side, the more cautious Ajax shows up. In a firefight, the rivals run out of ammunition, and the agent offers the veteran to sort it out one-on-one. This time, the man doesn't let himself get pinned down and prepares to stab Jake, but the man is saved by Mueller, who doesn't hesitate to fire a couple of rounds into her partner's back. Earl tells his nephew to get out as soon as possible and tosses him the keys to the car. As he and Mueller drive along the road, Jake starts suspecting that she's helping him for a reason. The girl replies that she wants out of Section 8, and no one quits it alive. Everyone who knows about its existence takes the secret to the grave. Jake plans to find and kill Ramsey, but when they get close to his hideout, Mueller betrays the man and takes him prisoner. Tied up, Jake asks Ramsey why he hasn't finished him off yet, and then Colonel Mason shows up in the room.
How could you do this to me, sir?
I gave you a second chance at life in Afghanistan. What'd you do with it?
It becomes clear how the former commander knew about Section 8. All along, Jake has been led to be recruited by any means necessary, even hiring Fresh and his gang to kill the man's family. The scumbags leave to discuss their plans, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. They count the money received after the missions and discuss the fact that there is no point in keeping Jake alive. Mason leaves to speak with the prisoner in private. He assures him that he was not involved in the murder of his family and frees him from the chains.
I was contracted to bring down Section 8, and I agreed.
Why didn't you just tell me?
They join forces and ambush the guards. An alarm goes off, and the two battle comrades once again shoot back at their enemies together. Ramsey tries to bribe Jake with money, but the man is now only interested in revenge. While the boss tries to shift the blame on the colonel, Mueller sneaks up behind him, and Mason puts his body under fire to save Jake. With his last breath, the colonel asks Jake to complete the mission, but Ramsey's accomplice catches the soldier off guard.
No. No, Jake, I would never kill you.
Jake defeats her with his bare hands and steals a car to catch up with Ramsey, who has run away with the money. He follows the boss down a mountain serpentine and forces him to lose control. The bastard is confident that Jake will hesitate to shoot him, but his speech is interrupted by bullets fired at point-blank range. Jake is visited by the attorney general that Mason worked for. For his help in eliminating Section 8, the veteran receives a commendation from the U.S. government. Ramsey had long earned his living by selling classified data to enemies of the state. The prosecutor also offers to use the soldier's skills for a good cause, but Jake refuses, although he takes the man's business card for the case he changes his mind. The man returns to his house, where Locke awaits him in the dark. For the sake of his reputation, he must complete the assignment regardless of whether the client is dead or not. Locke loses his guard for a moment, telling Jake how predictable he is, and misses a punch. The veteran deprives the hitman of his gun, and they engage in hand-to-hand combat, followed by a kitchen knife duel. The more powerful Locke emerges victorious, but Jake sees that the man's gun is on the floor and pretends to be wounded to retrieve the weapon and take the hitman by surprise. Without any hesitation again, he kills Locke. Jake sends a message to Uncle Earl, whom he thanks for all he has done. He regrets that he can't say goodbye in person and tell him everything, but he loves him a lot.
And, maybe we'll see each other again. In this life or the other one.
Jake boards a long-distance bus, where he sees a woman with a child waving at him with a smile.
I found something to fight for.
Glad to hear that.
He accepts the prosecutor's invitation to Section 9. As always, you'll find the name of the movie in the description of the video. In the meantime, let us know in the comments. Do you think Jake should have accepted the invitation into Section 9 after all the drama and deception? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that more awesome stories come out as often as possible. Watch an interesting movie in a few minutes without rewind? Easy!
We got a great looking audience tonight.
The Sweet Popcorn channel has a mega convenient format waiting just for you. Short retellings of movies, from auteur films to Hollywood blockbusters. Pick up your unlimited ticket by clicking the subscribe button.